to you live from our studio at the Sawi Kanda here in Accra, also live on our numerous affiliates across the country, around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the tuning app from the Google Play, Apple iOS store, and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, Nigerian citizens besiege country's embassy here in the capital, expressing support for Awusah President Mohamed Bazoum. Well, we'll get details. Meanwhile, ECOWAS military chiefs are to round off plans on the proposed military intervention later this afternoon. Also, Electoral Commission questions continuous rejection of its resolve to use Ghana card for voter registration, arguing the action is impeding their work. We'll get reactions from the NDC on the latest position as espoused by Ghana's Electoral Commission. And much later, the Ghana National Association of Teachers hit back at Education Ministry over claims of enough textbooks in schools across the country. For Bola tricycle operators too, they have served notice they will not respect the recently introduced ban on their activities by the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quarter. We have details of these stories, a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well, 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Let's settle for the details. And the sound of some Nigerian citizens here in Ghana voicing their support for Awusah President Mohamed Bazoum. The citizen who form part of the PNDS political party in Niger say the military intervention is a setback for the country. Mohamed Abdullah is the general secretary of the group. He spoke to my colleague Portia Gabo.
Soldier, this is leadership. We are in democracy. So that's why we decide to come and read our declaration. They are not like the soldier to stay in our country. They should go back to their place where they are coming from. The soldier people should have to protect the civilians, not to come to sit in the office, D8 and these things, like that. So that's why we decide to come. We bring to our support to our president, Alhaji Mohamed Bazoum, so that we are far of them. We are with them. We are with our president. We are of the party. Make the Bazoum to come back to his place. The people who are supporting the coup, they are just the manifestation where they pay them to go and anyway. They are not big people. So the one way we want for as Ghana here, is our section Ghana. We want to make the Bazoum Mohamed, our president, should come back to his office so that the soldiers people should go back to the place we come from. That's all.
ECOWAS is also thinking of the military intervention. Are you in support of it?
Oh, as soon as far my president is concerned, I'm supporting it. That's
why?
All. Because we don't understand. The people is working at all. The terrorists where the soldier people bring from, the terrorists is not true. Themselves they are terrorists because the people is sleeping quietly. When they go and come, they say that they remove them. What kind of country you see that kind of things?
That's Mohamed Abdullah, General Secretary of the PNDS political party here in Ghana, where my colleague Portia Gabo spoke to them earlier. And so they masked up there, expressed the support and have subsequently dispersed. But military chiefs from ECOWAS member states, they are later this afternoon expected to round off their two-day meeting in Accra over the proposed military intervention in the coup-troubled country. The military leaders yesterday reiterated their resolve to restore constitutional rule in Niger, with the military junta already establishing a government, with the almost certain conclusion. Experts, however, however, are admonishing ECOWAS to continuously choose diplomacy. Security consultant Festus Aboagye says the source of funding for the intervention could even be a challenge for ECOWAS.
Now, they themselves say that the plan is not ready. So when your campaign plan is not ready, you cannot launch the campaign. Tomorrow, by the close of work, if they have finalized the plan, that is also not the last stage. They need to brief the plan to the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council, which happens to be the authority because the two are conflated. And at that briefing, these chiefs will lay bare what they think the risks are, what the obstacles are, and the mitigating factors. They will give a sense of the budget. And then there is need for time to find the troops. Let's assume Ghana says, I'll give you a battalion. Now, Ghana needs time to compose or constitute that battalion. Because you don't uproot a battalion. There's something we call the rare detail. So even if you want 2nd Battalion, Aprem Dutak ready to go, it is not all the rank and file that are going to go. You need to leave behind. So you're going to take other troops from some of the existing units. Then you go to the phase where you call marrying up. So if you take these troops, and then you add artillery, you add this, you add that, and they don't get to know themselves. And the commander doesn't get to know the officers and men and women who are going to work under him and cycle them up and so on and so forth. It may not work very well. Then ECOWAS also has to go and find the money. Now, I have reservations about ECOWAS saying that they have the money. Because in this kind of campaign, you cannot say that you are going there for 7 days and you're coming back.
That's security consultant Colonel retired Festus Aboagye, or for senior mediator at the UN's Department of Political Affairs, and former Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs Emmanuel Bombandi. The military government failure to accept mediation teams from both the AU, UN and ECOWAS is not sufficient justification for a military intervention in the coup-troubled region.
So diplomacy does not work because you try and then the party that you are engaging with refuses to meet you, and so it ends. Diplomacy is a political engagement that is persistent and that perseveres on a day-to-day basis. And so the first attempt for ECOWAS and the AU that did not work does not necessarily mean that diplomacy does not work. So they have to go back for it. But then they have to re-strategize. They have to enlarge the engagement. So we need to bring in more actors. We need to bring in the North African countries. We need to bring in some bilateral and multilateral institutions that are key players in our region. We have to break down the understanding of interdependence and why we need one another. We have to bring the level of conflict analysis in terms of how the emerging future looks grim and put that before the military leaders for them to be able to see the contribution they are making, not just to peace in Niger, but to peace in the entire Sahel region and the entire belt of the Sahel from West Africa into the Horn of Africa.
That's Emmanuel Bombandi. He is a senior mediator at the UN's Department of Political Affairs and a former Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs speaking there. And the Christian Council as well, they are one of the groups who've been raising the concerns really about a military intervention in Niger, and will seek to speak just briefly to the General Secretary of the group, Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayosi, for a bit more on this. But as the conversations go on about a possible military intervention, the Ghana Refugee Board says it is planning to activate its refugee preparedness plan following ongoing discussions over the deployment of military troops in Niger. And Ghana is currently battling with refugees from Burkina Faso and the possibility of another influx of refugees refugees from Niger should that military intervention becomes a full-blown war. And speaking to 3FM, director of the Ghana Refugees Board, Tete Paddy, said a spillover would impact on the country's resources. We can hear from him as he's been speaking to us and explaining the position of the board and their preparedness.
Well, the Ghana Refugee Board, together with UNHCR, we always do contingency planning and looking at the situations around us. So once it's a developing situation, we plan for it. So, I mean, each time we have something coming up, when the triggers, we see what the triggers, we working with our partners, working with intelligence agencies who provide us with advanced notice and information in that regard. We plan for it.
That's the director of the Ghana Refugee Board, Tete Paddy, speaking there on the possible preparations of the Ghana Refugee Board should there be a spillover of refugees as a result of ongoing conversations over the military deployment in coup-troubled Niger. We're switching attentions to the conversations on elections here in Ghana. Unfortunately, calls to the General Secretary of the Christian Council currently gone unanswered. But the Electoral Commission says or is questioning the resolve of Parliament in rejecting their CI to make the Ghana card the sole identifier for the registration of voters across the country. The concern was expressed again when the Commission announced yesterday that December 19 will be the date for the country's district-level elections. The EC has had its CI, that's the constitutional instrument, rejected by Parliament, even as experts question the delay of a timetable for the district-level elections. At a news conference, Jean Mensah said the position of Parliament leaves them with no choice but to continue with the defective guarantor system.
Register all eligible voters and not to exclude and disenfranchise them. If any institution is keen to have a voters register that is credible and inclusive, it is the Electoral Commission of Ghana. And it is for that reason that we take pride in the fact that the 2020 voters register duly met international standards for voters registration, in that 55% of our population was captured on the voters roll. You may recall, ladies and gentlemen, that in 38 days, the Commission registered some 17,027,000 persons out of a total population of 31 million per the 2021 census figures. As a commission, we find it unfortunate that our efforts to strengthen the credibility and integrity of our voters register, and by extension, our elections, by the introduction of the draft CI, did not receive the support of Parliament. Members of Parliament were of the view that the NIA should fully operationalize its mandate before the CI could be considered. Sadly, as we all know, the NIA has not fully commenced its operations nationwide due to a lack of resources. That leaves us with no option than to rely on the current CI with its inherent challenges to conduct a voters registration exercise until such time as the NIA would become fully operational.
That's the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah. Mustafa Gbande is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Let's pick the thoughts of the largest opposition party on the position of the EC on this. Mr. Gbande, many thanks for speaking to us. And so a back and forth debate as to whether or not the Ghana card should be the sole identifier to get onto the country's electoral roll. Parliament appears to have taken a position on this reason for the rejection of the CI. But the EC says that, well, that's the only way to ensure credibility of the register. You in the NDC have opposed as always your position to what appears to be an undaunted EC in wanting to carry out this particular mandate.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I believe that basically the pronouncement or the declaration of the Electoral Commission in its press conference is not confessionary, but is a reality. Because if you put common sense to it, you will realize that we are not there yet where we can have any registration without a guarantee system, because we have not yet developed a common medium. NIA, which was established by law, have not progressively undertaken their activity or exercise to the extent that you can say a larger population of Ghanaians have a voter ID card or a Ghana card. So it is not a position of Parliament, but their position as Electoral Commission itself in the first place was not proper. It was grounded on a very defeatist foundation, backed by a very lusty ambition of the Electoral Commission to suppress election. Number two, the decision to go ahead with the limited registration now is a good news and welcoming one. But that is because the Electoral Commission has again failed in the last 3 years to undertake its constitutional mandate, and that is continuous voter registration. Now, what makes it very challenging, what makes it a voter suppression agenda led by the Electoral Commission to deliberately disenfranchise a number of Ghanaians from registering to vote, is by making sure that the people will now go and register at the district offices of the Electoral Commission. In a proper context of the existence of Electoral Commission, it is up to each polling station. And so the business of the Electoral Commission is ordinarily ought to be conducted at polling stations, so that an ordinary Ghanaian who is 18 years, who is jobless, who cannot afford to transport themselves into the district capital, who does not have the money to feed themselves when they are being transported to go and register to vote. These people are the people the Electoral Commission is seeking to disenfranchise them from registering by making the exercise very cumbersome, unattractive, very expensive for a Ghanaian who does not have money to register. What they are seeking to do is to regulate the election through a class system, a system where if you have money, then you are willing to vote. When you don't have money, you cease to be a Ghanaian.
But how else can the EC carry out this mandate if not at its district offices? It will be costly at a time when generally the conversation is that the Ghanaian economy is going through a crunch, and it cannot be the case that they will readily get money to move election materials to the nooks and crannies to register first-time voters.
Why would the Electoral Commission pass the difficulty of government onto innocent citizens? If the Electoral Commission cannot bear the expenses of having to undertake its business at polling stations, why must you pass that burden to an ordinary Ghanaian who is not employed, who government have failed to give a job, an ordinary Ghanaian who is suffering because of government's own corruption? The amount of money that we have lost as a country as a result of corruption and mismanagement can undertake a properly decentralized Electoral Commission program without any sweat. And I'm saying that constitutionally, no citizen should incur a cost in order to discharge their civic responsibility. The duty of Ghanaians to vote is enshrined under the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. It is the duty of the Electoral Commission to ensure that services, processes, and procedures are sent to the doorstep that is accessible to Ghanaians and the people who ought to register. Now, as we speak, there are constituencies that people live across rivers. They have been 18 years, 3 years ago. The Electoral Commission is asking these people to transport themselves on boats to register.
Right.
There are constituencies you have to travel several hours and kilometers to get to the district capital.
Right then.
The Electoral Commission is telling these people that they should transport themselves to the district capitals. Now, what is even more troublesome is that in doing this exercise, the Electoral Commission says the exercise is open at the district office between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Knowing very well that it has failed to undertake continuous registration in the last 3 years. When the people mass up at the district offices, and between the hour of 8 and 5, they have not been able to register, but they have traveled from their homes to the district capital. Who provides them accommodation in order to register the following? Who will take care of their feeding?
Mr. Gwande, I believe these concerns are very well known. I'm sure in the coming days there will be the opportunity to subject this to a lot more scrutiny, but I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. The scrutiny is now. Ghanaians must be concerned about the desire of the Electoral Commission to circumvent the process. Ghanaians must be concerned that the tendencies and the behavior of the Electoral Commission is likely to spark tension in this country. We have decided as a party that every institution, every public institution should do the right thing so that we have a credible election. The Electoral Commission is simply not willing to do that.
Mr. Gbande, many thanks for speaking to us. That's Mustafa Gbande. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. We'll move away from the Zandu education now because the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, they've denied again the assertions of the Education Ministry that enough textbooks have been supplied to schools across the country to complement the new curriculum. Deputy Education Minister Reverend Tim Fojo yesterday dared stakeholders in the sector to point out a school without the needed textbooks. But President of NAT, Reverend Isaac Awusah, says the Deputy Minister's claim is not supported by the reality on the ground. We'll hear from him shortly, but let's just hear again from the Deputy Minister on the claims.
Point to me one classroom that you have visited that does not have textbooks. Just point to me one classroom. No, I have asked you. Just point to me one classroom that does not have textbooks, and I'll prove to you. I will prove to you. All that we do on the distribution of textbooks was done transparently. So let us be very constructive.
Let's now hear from the President of NAT, Reverend Isaac Awusah, in response to these comments by the Deputy Minister.
We are not in any position to banter with either the ministry or the GES. The fact is that a new curriculum was introduced in 2019 at the KG and the primary level, and about 158,000 thereabout teachers were given 1 week training to enable them use the new curriculum that has been introduced. And after the 1 week training, the message attached to the training was that they should do away with the old curriculum together with the old textbooks, because there were going to be a new curriculum with it new. Came out, tell the public that he has given the publishers 120 days to finish the publication of all the textbooks. Yesterday, the president of the Publishers Association said that the contract they signed with the ministry, they were to produce 48% of the textbooks, which represented the core textbook. And for over 2 years now, the publishers are yet to receive their money. You can equally go to the ground and check for yourself whether the schools have 8 textbooks for the A subject, or they have some and some are yet to be given to them. You see, the teachers need to be praised because those at the primary, the main book that was given to them was a resource pack. And the teachers are now using their own devices, their own data to do some research online to enable them get some facts to teach the children.
That's the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Reverend Isaac Awusah. To some other matters now, the leadership of the Bola Taxi and Tricycle Association, they've served notice not to observe the ban imposed by the Greater Accra Regional Minister on the Operations. General Secretary of the Informal Waste Workers Association, Max Jumbo, says planned activities by the Accra Regional Coordinating Council to streamline operations of motor tricycles have not been upheld, a reason members of the association will not heed to the imposition of the ban.
The regional minister extended the ban from 1st of November 2021 to February 1st, 2022, to make more room for engagement, 1, education, 2, and sensitization. And as we speak now, we've not seen any engagement from the minister's office, no sensitization, no education. So our question still remains, why the intensification of the ban? We are not holding on. We are still working until he comes. We are working because we can't stop. That is what we do to feed our people. That is what we do to feed ourselves. And until the authorities come to us or they agree to meet us, we are ready to meet them. And then we discuss the way forward. Until then, we are still working. We are still on the grounds.
That's Max Jumbo. He is the General Secretary of the Informal Waste Workers Association speaking there. And away from that, your urban lifestyle station, 3FM 92.7, in collaboration with TV3 and South African Airways, is organizing a thrilling week-long adventure for listeners to South Africa in October of this year. The trip will not only tour cities in South Africa, Cape Town and Johannesburg, it also aims to create business partnerships and collaborations for patrons involved in certain sectors. To share a lot more details on the trip, Head of Events here at 3FM, AJ Sapons, join me in studio with a bit more. AJ, what is the 3FM Getaway Discover South Africa to start off with?
Oh, thank you very much for the opportunity. So first and foremost, we decided that our listeners, after a very hectic year, 2023 has been, deserve an opportunity to unwind and go and explore a different part of Africa and as well get to enjoy a little bit more. So we decided that in collaboration with TV3 and South African Airways to pick destination South Africa. And not only that, usually people go to explore one city, but we decided to do a 2-city tour of Cape Town and as well Johannesburg. And the best part about it, add some business opportunities to our patrons as well.
So business opportunities, but let's talk about packages and available prices.
So it's 2 packages that we have available for our amazing listeners, and it's an all-inclusive package. So it is a single package for those that want to be have their privacy in a room, and as well package for twin sharing or double occupancy. So the first package, which is a single one-in-a-room occupancy, is $2,699, and then the double occupancy or twin sharing is $2,399 per person. So it's an all-inclusive one because that price gets you 2 tickets actually. So a ticket Accra, South Africa, Accra, as well Johannesburg, Cape Town, Johannesburg, because you go from Johannesburg to Cape Town and back. Right. And then you have hotel accommodation, breakfast and lunch. You get all the amazing tours of the wine region. So we're going to 3 specific areas in the Western Cape. Specifically in Cape Town, we're going to Franschhoek, Paarl, and as well in Stellenbosch. We'll be attending and doing some wine tasting with some of the most exclusive wineries in South Africa. Then we'll come to Johannesburg, attend the Wine X event, which is an exclusive wine event, the biggest in Africa, in the Sandton Convention Center. As well, we'll have some tour packages of some of the cities and guided shopping trips, and as well visa facilitation for everyone. And it's all in that price.
For the business persons who might want to come, we've mentioned the business opportunities. What could be in for them?
So for those that are involved in certain sectors such as manufacturing, agro-processing, food processing, those are involved in IT, software, events, marketing, advertising, and general fintech, and as well financial institutions, those patrons who are involved in those sectors get to sit down with the South African Chamber of Commerce. So we're giving you an opportunity to create a business partnership with other stakeholders in those sectors. So we'll have a B2B session, a breakfast opportunity where you get to be able to sit with the South African Chamber of Commerce, organized by Westgrow, get to see the people involved in these sectors and create some business partnership and collaborations, and as well know how you can be able to learn from them, they can learn from us, and perhaps even create an opportunity to make money in South Africa amongst many others. So they will be giving you some guidance on how we can be able to do that for our business patrons.
I think finally deadlines and bookings.
Yes, so please call us 0531 100 100927. That's 0531 100927 as well. The deadline is the 1st of September for you to have indicated your wish to be a part of us and also paid a small deposit. So please, by the 1st of September, we'll be starting to wind it down because we want to prepare to get you to South Africa. So please, again, call us on 0531 100927 to be a part of the 3FM getaway.
And that's AJ Sapon, head of events here at 3FM. That's how we end this afternoon's edition of the Bulletin. A lot more news as always if you log on to 3news.com. Bismark is here ready with the very latest from the world of business.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily. Coming up, Ghana's imports expected to contract by 10% in 2023, marking a shift from robust growth in 2022. Also, creation of sinking fund heightens the country's appetite for borrowing, that's according to the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. I am Bismark. Awusah will bring you details of our headlines and many other stories shortly. Thanks for staying. To our very first story, Fitch Solutions has projected that Ghana's imports will contract by 10% in 2023. This is from a robust growth of 7.3% recorded in 2022. Imports are, however, expected to recover starting from 2024. According to the ratings agency, imports will contract more sharply than exports due to weak domestic demand.
According to Fitch Solutions, the anticipated decline in imports is said to outpace the decrease in exports, largely due to weakened domestic demand. The report highlights that while export growth is also predicted to remain in negative territory for the latter part of 2023, the reduction is anticipated to be less severe when compared to imports. The primary driver of the reduction in import figures, as indicated by Fitch Solutions, is the prevailing state of weak domestic demand. This phenomenon is predicted to yield an unexpected consequence, a current account surplus of 1.3% of the country's GDP for the year 2023. This marks a remarkable shift from the previous year, 2022, when Ghana faced a current account deficit of 2.1% of its GDP. Notably, this surplus is significant not only for its reversal of a two-decade trend, but also for being the first time in 20 years that Ghana has achieved a full-year current account surplus. The coming years are set to be crucial for Ghana's trade dynamics as the nation navigates the intricate balance between imports, exports, and domestic demand. With expectations of a gradual recovery in imports, economists and analysts will closely monitor these trends to assess the nation's economic resilience and potential for sustained growth.
And that was a 3 Business Desk report. To some other stories, co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Mantiel, has observed the creation of the sinking fund heightened the country's appetite for borrowing. This, he says, has led to the current economic downturn.
The sinking fund helps to ensure debt servicing. So, for instance, if government wants to borrow, it can point to the sinking fund as an arrangement that helps us to repay the loans that we contract. And so, invariably, the sinking fund fed into our appetite to borrow. And I believe that largely is what has brought us to this debt crisis that we face today. In fact, an analysis of the sinking fund over the years, which was conducted by the Natural Resource Governance Institute, actually revealed that as we continue to put more money into the sinking fund, our borrowing also went up at the same time, which shows that there was a certain correlation between putting the excess over the cap in the sinking fund and our borrowing appetite. Going forward, I think we need to amend the law to require that at all costs, something should go into the contingency fund so that when we are hit with the pandemic, we will not be found wanting. There will be money in the contingency fund to help mitigate it and not go into the sinking fund, which is meant for debt servicing. On this occasion, because there was no money in the contingency fund, we had to resort to the sinking fund to cream off 300 million to be able to mitigate COVID impacts.
And that was co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Manthia Odwe. This is still Business Daily with me, Bismark Awusah. To some other story, country manager of Agra, Juliet Lampo Agro, has urged stakeholders within the agricultural space to re-strategize in order to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Goal, which aims to achieve zero hunger by 2030. There has been concerns that Africa may not be able to meet the Sustainable Goal agenda in the next 5 years. The country manager of Agra spoke at the sideline of the Cosmos Innovation Center's Agricultural Innovation for Africa conference in Accra.
Unless we as Africans, the government, civil society, development partners, unless we get back and redefine our goals and take steps to increase adoption of technologies so that we can increase production, focus a lot more on domestic production of the foods that we eat, focus more on the inputs that we have to use domestically so that we'll be able to increase production, not just of food, but healthy food sustainably so that we can feed our people. We might not be able to achieve the SDG goals, goal 2 in 10 years, maybe not, but we should be able to get faster at achieving it if we do some of these things right.
Let's stay a while longer in the agri space, where as the Ministry of Food and Agriculture says it is confident that the phase 2 of the government's flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program will help drastically tame food inflation in the country. Food inflation stood at a concerning 55% last month, which was an increase from 54.2% in June 2023. A Deputy Sector Minister, Yao Frimpong Ado, stated that the new design of the Planting for Food and Jobs program will not only boost food production, but also tackle post-harvest losses. Sorry for the wrong insert there. And that will be all for Business Daily with me, Bismark Awusah. For more news, you can log on to 3news.com. Thanks for staying.